Starting. Hello, I am TheGrayingTech. This is my tech channel. I am a gaming insider, and today I'm going to take a look at 3 PCs that maybe you could be interested in either building yourself or buying. And I want to show you the differences between a system integrator like Origin PC, an ODM like HP, and something that you can do custom yourself. Now, what exactly qualifies me to speak about that? What is a gaming insider? For 7 years, I've worked for one of the larger of the ODMs that are out there. You probably know the name, but I'm not going to say their name on air or in any of my videos because I still work for them and I'd like to keep my job. Seems simple enough. But they're very large and they have a gaming division. And I spent 6 years in that gaming division leading the global software strategy, working with Valve, working with Epic, working with Microsoft, working with a lot of awesome companies and a lot of big companies to try to improve the gaming experience via software. I also got to sit behind a lot of closed door meetings and learn kind of firsthand how these business decisions are made. And I brought 24 years now of PC building experience, A+, Network Plus, CCNA, MCSA, MCSE, all of the certifications that you could possibly imagine for somebody as an IT administrator, which I did spend several years on as well. So that's why I think I'm qualified at least to tell my opinion to the internet. You not only should disagree, but, think for yourself on this. This is my opinion. This is what I'm thinking. This is my knowledge. I am sharing it with you. Take it with a grain of salt, combine it with the other opinions that are out there. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide, and ultimately, it's your money, not mine. So kicking us off here, I want to show you right here my PC part picker for Project 7. Now, Project 7 is an Intel Nvidia build that I have finished. Actually, you can't see it on camera. Let me turn it just slightly. There it is. Running back there. Now, that will become a primary streaming box. Right now, I'm using Project Red Star, which is my AMD build for streaming, but that will be it right back there. Behind me, you also see my traditional set. That's what I used for recording videos. But this is the rundown. This is the spec sheet that I used to build Project 7. Now, Project 7 is a 1440p targeted gaming system, and I gave myself a budget of around $2,050 to $2,100, kind of in order to pull it off. And as you can see with the prices here, ignoring the GPU, coming in at $1,400. So that gives me about $700 to be able to spend on a GPU. Now, I know the market for GPUs right now is crazy. Nothing I can do about it. Sorry. Absolutely. So just in case, there's a monitor here. So if you see me turn, I might be looking at chat or whatever. That's over there. That's why I got to get the whole streaming thing completely set up. GPUs right now are crazy. Get what you can get. I've gone over several times. I think the 3060 Ti, I think the 3070, I think the 6800. Those are very good graphics cards. They are properly priced and you're going to get a lot of great performance out of them. Those are the ones that I would target. If you are somebody that can swing it though, and you can find it, the 3080 from Nvidia is ridiculously good value. It is very well priced for the performance gains that you're going to get. Get that if you can, but don't be afraid to settle for the 3060 Ti or the 3070 or the 6800. 6800 XT as well. That's another good card that I would add to that list. So here you can see everything that went into Project 7. I'm going to say we stayed on budget, even with the graphics card having to pay a little bit more for that EVGA back there. We're at $2,100. So the first place I'm going to start is here at Hewlett Packard. HP has a long history in gaming. They have a long history building systems. Hewlett Packard is not a systems integrator. This is one of those things that easily can be confused. What do I mean by a systems integrator? A systems integrator is going to take things that are off the shelf, think from Corsair, EVGA, Gigabyte. They're going to take those components, assemble them, put them in a box, and ship them to you. That's a systems integrator. They are replacing somebody that could build a system for you, a friend, buy him, a nice fancy bottle of whiskey, maybe throw him 20, 30 bucks, and they'll build a system for you. They're replacing that with a streamlined factory-like process where they have experts who build systems for you and then provide it to you with a warranty and a certain level of support. SIs basically do a good job, but you have to be very careful and not overpay. ODMs, original device manufacturers, like HP, like Dell, like, who's another one? Well, those are the top ones. Maybe Maingear to some degree. They're going to partner with other companies to help build and design a computer for you. They help design a motherboard. They help, in some instances, design graphics cards. They're taking some parts that are off the shelf. They're taking some parts that may be custom built or built to spec for them, putting it together in a box and then shipping it to you with a warranty and certain support level. I don't know what Steam is doing. Of course, it has an update because there's probably an updated sale. Go away, Steam. So that's what an ODM is going to do. An OEM, original equipment manufacturer, think ASUS, think MSI, they actually build devices. They build graphics cards. They build motherboards. They build a lot of the underlying circuitry that can go into a system, and they can also be used by ODMs to build components. I worked on a system that was actually manufactured by MSI to spec for the ODM that I work for, and MSI was great to work with. So here, HP, these guys are an ODM. So they're going to design a system. They're going to have certain specs and they're going to have certain thermals that are going to be designed. They're going to put in the effort in order to make sure that everything is kind of working. I'm going to turn myself down just a tad. I'm a little bit worried it's going to peg. I don't want to do that. I did that last time. Trying to get better on stream. So we're going to come in here. They're going to design their own thermals. They're going to design specs. They're going to have basically service level agreements that they're going to expect. A great example of this. The tolerances that you have around the edge of your bezel and your screen. You would define 1 to 2 millimeters of variance as an ODM, and then the OEM is responsible for developing, testing, and ensuring that a high standard is met, low standard deviation between all of your monitors, and that the spec is always in play. So it has to be less than 1 or 2 millimeters kind of away from the monitor's screen with the bezel. That's one example of the specs that they're going to be going for. So let's take a look at their gaming PC lines. Now, instantly I'm bombarded with laptops. So I'm also curious what happens when I just click gaming. We're going over to Omen. And guess what? It's laptops again. Now, why is this? Laptops are highly profitable. Highly profitable. It's very difficult to make your own laptop. There's a lot of engineering that goes into these. And so they make a good profit margin off of a laptop. They would really love you to not buy a desktop, instead buy a laptop. We're going to come down here to the desktops. So right here is their newer desktop line, a 25L and a 30L. Now, I'm going to be honest, I did a little bit of pre-research. I am hypothesizing that this is 25 liters and 30 liters, which would be a standard of measurement for how much volume is inside of the case. I want to say that's what it is. The reason I can't say that definitively is they don't give you the appropriate amount of information. They don't. If I click learn more and I click specs, now you would think somewhere in here I could see the actual specs of the case, the inside, the outside, all of that. This is what I get. These are external dimensions. How much space do I have for my graphics card? How much space do I have for the power supply? How much room does the power supply take? Another thing, where's the fans? I don't see fans anywhere. And if you don't believe me, let's open every single thing up. Okay? The word fan does not appear anywhere in the specifications of this system. So you have no idea what fans, how many there are, the throughput, anything like that. You are just expected to trust that HP knows what they're doing. Okay, let's take a leap of faith. So here is the Omen. No, I don't want to chat. And you can see several systems. The cheapest one right here, this is an AMD based system. You can see it starts at a 3060. You can customize and you can compare. As we move basically right and down, it gets more expensive. So let's add our AMD and let's add this 10th gen i7. Now this is funny. 10th gen Intel, 10th generation Intel. So this makes it look like there's more text here, which means, hey, maybe there's something different here. It's not. And then we have this guy, and we have this guy. All right. Took me a little while to figure out how to get the actual compare to work. It's a button right here. Now I'm in dark mode so that it's easier on your eyes. Somebody requested this, but normally this would be like a white grayish button. So here we go. As I'm looking across all four of these systems, instantly I'm being drawn to this. There are no options here whatsoever. You see this? You are locked in. So these are pre-configured. These are configured to ship. There's actually a specific term that they call them. But essentially, these are priced the way they are because HP believes that they can move these units at these prices, make a significant amount of margin by eliminating your choice. Sometimes you actually can find a pretty good deal in these situations. But here's what I don't like. They are forcing me to get an i9 in order to get a 3070. See that? Here, my highest choice is a 3060 Ti. And this is one that I can fully configure, supposedly. See how it has the 10700, which is what I want. That to me is what I would recommend you to target. Or the 11th generation of that, if you can find it in the system. You can see we have HyperX and we have different size specs here where we can choose the amount of memory that we want, but we have no information on spec, right? What's the cache latency? What is the read and the write latencies? Where is any of the information about what this should be? Here we can see Western Digital. Now this is interesting because it's TLC. This means it's a triple layer, which means it's slightly reduced performance versus the SLC and the DLC varieties of these. Now, don't worry about the terms there. It's just how many layers there are on the actual chip itself. The fewer the layers, the less data gets written. Therefore, in order to have higher capacity, you have to have more chips, which means it actually works faster. So TLC is not horrible. There's a decent number of TLCs out there, but it is not the necessarily fastest. Also, what generation is this? Is this 3rd gen? Is this 4th gen? Is this 4th plus, which actually has very, very fast speeds? So you look through all of this and you're like, I have some choices here. I have some potentially good deals here. And what they're trying to do, is they are trying to get you to focus in on the graphics card. They want to sell you the 3070 or they want to sell you the 3080. So ultimately, that is what they want. Let's clear all of those. They want you to get this one or this one. And so now let's look at the comparison. By bumping up to the 3080, which is a phenomenal card, phenomenal card. I cannot disagree with that. But by pushing you into the 3080, they now give you the illusion of choice. They stick you still with the 10th generation card, CPU. See this? They don't give you any choice really in RAM, any choice really in NVMe spec. So they're giving you some, but not a lot. And they're not telling you here either, right? They're not telling you what fans, they're not telling you what type of liquid cooling. They're not telling you how many radiator spaces that this takes up. Now, all of those things might not be important. They could have designed this so well that it's immaterial. But if you're buying a K-class processor with liquid cooling and you're paying this amount of money, shouldn't you get the highest specs you can possibly get? I would say yes, you should. So from an HP standpoint, I can't fault them. Oh, hi, Albert. I can actually see one person in the chat. From an HP standpoint, I can't fault them. What they're trying to do is they are trying to nudge you into the higher class. That's going to give them more profit margin. And ultimately, that's going to help them, make more money and continue as a business. And they do that by limiting your choices for these kind of specials. Fine, everybody does that. And they nudge you towards the higher margin items by giving you this idea of a fake choice. So we could easily pick up this Omen 30 right here, grab it, and never know the difference, right? If you're somebody that doesn't know a lot about computers, you see 3080, you know that your kid wants a 3080, or just by hearing from the zeitgeist that the 3080 is a great deal, you pick it up, you game with it, and you're happy, right? If everything is going well, you'll never know the difference. But the second that you dive into this a little bit more, you suddenly see there's some things that were left on the table here that I just didn't quite get what I was expecting. That's where people like Origin come in. Now, I'm not an Origin affiliate. I don't take money from anybody. I'm not big enough of a channel, and I'm deliberately trying to avoid that. Origin does have an affiliate program. I'm not part of it. Why? I'm trying to set up the Patreon side of this. I want to basically be able to be supported on Patreon to get the equipment that I need to show you how to improve your gaming performance. I'm not talking about the systems for me. I'm talking about buying one of these Omens right here. Buying, let's say, the bottom tier Omen. Showing you where they've cut corners, not just on the spec sheet, right? I can tell you from the spec sheet where they cut the corners. But actually diving in and showing you this fan right here isn't actually moving enough air. There's not enough airflow. Your temperatures aren't right. The thermal solution isn't proper. You could easily get better RAM. You could have gotten a better SSD, NVMe, all of those things, right? So pick one of these up, show you how you could tune your system, how you could get different components and maybe actually end up with a good deal, which would be awesome. That's what this Patreon is about. Why do I say pay it forward? My goal is to take that system, improve it, and then donate it. Donate it either to the foster care system or donate it to one of the charities that actually does things in children's hospitals. Essentially, this system would be tuned. We know it would be higher quality. We know it would gain better. And those organizations could either sell it or they could donate it directly. That's my intention. So if you are interested or you're in a charitable mood and you want to help these kind of causes, use me as an intermediary. It supports the channel, it supports the content, but it doesn't go to production. It doesn't go to me building my own stuff. It goes down the line to people who will use those systems or use the funds from those systems in order to do good things. So that's what the Patreon is for. So you can see I have a couple wait a minute. I have a Patreon. I didn't know that. That's awesome. I'm not going to call this person out on air because I need to contact them, but so that's this tier right here. So this is the 2 build a month tier. My goal would be to have an AMD and an Nvidia system kind of in here that I could show you the differences and show you all of that. But yeah, this person, if you're at this tier, you definitely get a shout out message too. That's not necessarily on here. Epic, at the epic level, right? You pretty much, you can have whatever you want as a shout out. I will shout you out in every video of that build if you're at the epic tier. Like, holy cow. But that's awesome. I did not know that I had a Patreon. Okay. So that's what the Patreon there is for. Back over here to Origin. Interesting thing about Origin, they are former Alienware. So the company down in Miami, they split up. Part of them joined Dell. Part of them split off and kind of kept making computers down in Miami. I've met a few of them. They seem like nice folks. But they've kind of gone the SI route. So they're going to bring in components from different systems, put it together for you, ship it to you. Here's your warranty. Hopefully everything is good. That's the goal. Now, I've looked on Origin a few different times. I'm going to go here with the Neutron. Now, I want you to notice something here. They're telling you the price, which I love. Tell me right up front, here's my price per month if I want to finance. You can finance a PC, just make sure the APR is decent, right? If you're paying over 4% APR, 5%, 6%, like you're starting to get into some not so good interest rates, I would say. Just personal opinion on that front, but that's what I would be looking for in terms of financing. I want you to take note of this case though. Okay, so we're going to configure a Neutron. Now what happened? What the? You're telling me this price and you showed me a different case than what's on there. And then we actually go into the configuration and now it's the Origin PC case. Okay. So right down here, I want you to keep track of my subtotal because I'm going to configure this very similar to how Project 7 is configured. Okay. I want the flow. I talked a lot about airflow. Why is that? Let's see if it'll work. It worked. Yes. It worked. All right. Now I can't really see it, but all right. So temperature. Temperature is the most important thing to get great gaming performance. I'm very happy that worked. To get great gaming performance, air has to move through your case, through your components. Heat has to be removed from those components. It doesn't matter if you overclock. It doesn't matter if you are really pushing the envelope. If you can keep your system 5 degrees cooler than another case and another system, you're going to get better performance because you're going to have more sustained boost more often. Temperature and frequency are very much tied together. There's algorithms that work that kind of pull all of this off for your GPU and CPU. So if you have very good airflow, you're going to get better performance, which is why temperature is number 1. So I really care about what case I'm going to use. I use Gamers Nexus's reviews to kind of determine that. They are fanatical when it comes to actually measuring GPU temperature, CPU temperature, airflow, noise, and they have a great resource on there. Go to them. find what they say are the best cases for airflow, best cases for GPU, or best cases for water cooling. I would trust Steve in Gamers Nexus for that information over pretty much anybody else. And they have a long history, a long pedigree of doing that. So that's why I trust that. I just happen to know that this 4000D airflow is a well-rated case for this purpose. So this is the one we're going to use. I really like that they're telling me at least this level of information, right? How many USB, USB-Cs, the drive base, things like that. So that's good. Down here, I want it in white. Skipping over some of this because it's just not relevant. So here's our price again. You can see we're $23,580. Okay. CPU time. We are going 11th generation, and we are going 11700 right there. Now, I have always found this interesting. Why do they call out thermal compound? I'm curious if they are using like name brand versus house thermal compound, because there's got to be thermal compound on there no matter what. What thermal compound they're using that is $15 above and beyond the thermal compound that would be on there anyways, I don't know. Because you can pick up Cryonaut for like $8 a bottle for one processor. So this is twice that amount. And because they're a system integrator, they shouldn't be charging you for the fact that somebody has to apply that thermal paste because it's already on there. There's a caveat there, and I'll get to that when we get into the actual cooler. But this is the one that we're going for. And you can see they forced added on a cooler. Here's another theory, and I don't know this for sure. These coolers tend to come with thermal paste pre-applied, so somebody has to remove the thermal paste from this and then add additional thermal compound. Whether or not that is $15 minus $8, whether or not that's $7 worth of work, I'm not sure. Motherboard. I am fine with this MSI board right here. So it's a Z590. This means we're getting all of the overclocking that we need. We're going to have all of the tools at our disposal. It is a ATX size, which means we're not paying for slightly smaller. Can you see when I do that? Kind of. You can certainly go up. You can go up the tiers. You're going to find higher performing VRMs. You're going to find more RGBs. You're going to find more integration with overclocking and dynamic stuff and all of the bells and whistles that you could possibly imagine, especially when you get up here into the Maximus line. I don't think it's necessary because, again, back to our hierarchy here, which you can still see. I forgot to take that down. Our CPU is towards the bottom. CPU, yes, it does improve and it does impact your frames per second if you are CPU bound, but it is a lower item in the priority tree, so I don't actually encourage people to focus too heavily there. Get a 7 series. Those typically are very price to performance competitive. The i5s, especially the higher end i5s, are definitely that way too. But if you get one of those and then you get a good motherboard that gives you access to all of the overclocking features, that's kind of what you need. I'm going to take this down again. Yes. So I'm sticking with this board. I don't see any reason to pay more. Memory. Now, I wish they were offering something more than Corsair. I wish they were offering something more than 3200. I was reading a Reddit post here recently from a guy that works in a PC shop, and he was saying, we sell people memory that's ranked for 3600, but then we declock it to 32. Why? Why could you possibly think that that's justifiable? You sold somebody a product that had a specific speed, and then you purposely underclocked it, which removed that speed difference. Did you adjust the cache latency to adjust for the performance hit? I could see it then, but ultimately you just rip somebody off. So I would like to see 36, maybe even 4 for memory here, but they're only offering 32. Fine. They also don't tell you the CAS. Oh, they do. Oh, I'm glad I clicked that button. Okay, so they're not telling you the third number that you need in here. Given that this is a 16, 18, 18, I don't think that that's going to be too terrible. That's probably 36 or 38 for the fourth number, which is the RAS. I think it's the RAS. Sometimes I need a chart for this stuff. RAM is complicated, in case you didn't know. Okay, so that's not too terrible, but this number here, I don't like. This is spec. And the way you can tell that, like, snap of a finger, what is 2 times this number? 2 times that number is 32. If that is the case, then this is 10 nanoseconds for the first word latency. This is spec RAM. This isn't going to give you any better performance. It's meeting spec. Congratulations, you're on par. Let's see. The Vengeance, I do believe, is faster than spec. Let's look at the Dominator Platinum. Nope. One of these Dominators should be faster. Are you kidding me? It's just the RGB and the color. If they're not giving you faster CAS latency, all you are paying for is color and decoration. Literally no reason to get that RAM. It might run a little bit cooler, but temperature impacts RAM by stability, not by performance. So, wow. I don't know what to say about that. That's ridiculous. In this instance, don't pay a single dime more. This is spec RAM, which it's fine enough. I would immediately try to figure out how to replace that to get that performance boost. Coolers. So the difference here between the H100i and the 150 is how wide the radiator is. This should be, 360 versus a 240. In this instance, I would move a little bit more towards this. I don't necessarily love a 240 rad. I would rather have a 280. And I'm not seeing a 280 option. So I'd like to be 280 and above. That will help keep your CPU cooler longer. And that helps with a lot of the other workloads that you're doing. So if you've spent the money on a 11700, make sure you're getting at least 280 millimeters of radiator in order to benefit from that. In this instance, they're not giving me the choice I want, so I don't see a reason to go higher here again. There could be fan differences, but I'm also not seeing fan differences on here. They're not telling me what fan they're using. So if there was a difference from a fan standpoint, yeah, a 240 millimeter radiator might be okay. I'd have to go look up the fans in order to tell you for sure. Sorry, I should have prepped on that one. Standard fan kit. Standard fan kit is the Maglev 120s. Maglev 120s are good fans. You can see this static pressure down here. So the faster you run the fan, the more pressure, the more force it's going to have. The more airflow is going to move through it. This is PWM, but look at the noise. Those are pretty loud fans. Those are very loud fans. Let's see what the maximum is. Still ML120s. Sound level is much lower. Interesting. But they're Corsair 120s. Huh. Maybe they have it pre-programmed to only run at a certain RPM for the standard. This goes up to 24. This goes up to 2000. I don't know. This might be a misprint. Sound level is definitely better. That is much more within inside of a tolerable range. You're getting good airflow. Interesting. I'm not sure. One of those is off, but I would certainly get this for quietness and for the ability to probably move more air. You can see the airflow here is higher along with the pressure. So I would get those. If you want colored RGB, those are obviously available. That's up to you. I can't tell you to get an RGB fan. I would not sacrifice performance for an RGB fan. I certainly would not kind of go out of my way to get it. And as you can see, the static pressure's dropped off and the airflow is dropped off for those. Here's your airflow. Here's your static pressure. So why are those important? Those are important because moving air through your case, it's going to get blocked. You're going to have filters. You're going to have things that kind of stand in the way. You need that pressure to push through. If you have a radiator, you need the pressure of the fan to push through, and you need to move air. You need to move a lot of air through all of your components to keep it cooler. So I'm not seeing a great alternative here. Not as high, sounds better, not as much static pressure. So again, I would not quote unquote upgrade to these lights on these fans and sacrifice the alleged performance from here. So I have a giant question mark now on what these fans actually are because they're showing different sets of information there. But that's what I would go for. Graphics cards. Okay. All right, I gotta take a sip of water before I answer that. I've noticed a bad trend. This is a roll up the sleeve kind of an endeavor. Okay. 6800 XT MSRP. Is $649. Now, Origin might be using EVGA. They might be using non-founders. But this is what I want you to consider. They're charging you $508 above the price of a 3060 Ti. This is what's selected right now. So take your 3060 Ti price, add $580 to it. Now, I know. GrayingTech, you can't use MSRP. I know. But you can find some at MSRP, guys and gals. Guys and dolls. Let's use that. That's a fun musical. $400. Okay, let's add that to the price that they're advertising here. So 400 plus 500 is the 6800 XT a $900 graphics card? No. They're charging you $250 more for that graphics card. And this is what I mean by, this is why I had to take a break, because a lot of the times you have to watch out for these upsells. I know you want a higher tier performance card. I know you want those things that are really hard to find right now. And the 6800 XT is one of those cards, along with the 3080 right here. Those are really hard to find. I know. And that's probably why you're looking at an SI. You're paying a giant markup for that fact. A giant markup. So my question to you, my prompt to you, could you live with a 3060 Ti until you could actually get a Newegg Shuffle? Maybe you get lucky and EVGA pulls your name. Maybe you get even luckier and Best Buy drops and you score one from them and you can pick up the 3070 or you can pick up the 3080. If you could pull that off, you could turn this card around. And while I'm not guaranteeing, because I'm not buying it from you, I could almost guarantee you could sell it for $400. I could almost guarantee you that. So if you're in that position, I want you to think about that little bit of a factoid. So they're marking this card up and they're marking up all of these other cards. They're making margin on these and they're trying to get you even higher by having you focus on these harder to find cards. Now the 3070, I did that too quick. $86. $86 to go from the 3060 Ti to the 3070. The 3070 MSRP is $500. That is actually $14 less than what it would be. That's worth it to me. So I might even pick up the 3070 and still do trying to get the 3080 or the 6800 XT, sell that card if I ever did. Right? Just a little trick, but you have to at least do a little bit of the math and these are not like, I can't justify this to people. I couldn't ever justify ripping people off that much. Like that's ridiculous. And then look at this, right? Even more 3090, they wanted $400. Yeah. So that's even more. Right? Every single one of those cards is more, but these two are ridiculous. This is nowhere near what the price should be. Operating system. Obviously, you're going to go with the home version. This will update to Windows 11, which comes out in October. So that's cool. Operating drive. Get an NVMe. I don't care what NVMe class you get. Your NVMe is what has to support your operating system. Everything else on your system is going to be devoted to that. Just you have to get an NVMe. Now, I don't like these drives. I don't. So this is a PCI Gen 3, and we have a PCIe Gen 4 capable motherboard and Gen 4 capable processor. Double these speeds. Gen 4 will give you double these speeds. So let's see if they have any Gen 4 on here. This is a Gen 4 interface, but those speeds are not as high as they go. The Samsung Ego 970, this is a Gen 3. I don't even need to click that. I know that one. These are Gen 4. What do you got? Okay, here. This is the NVMe you should get. And for $250, guess what? They're doing the same thing. MP510. MP510 at, what was that? That was the lowest one, right? 240. $50. Okay. You can pick up a Samsung 980 Evo. You can pick up a Western Digital SN850 Black. I think that's the number. You can pick up one of those for less than this. For less than $205, you can pick that up. So they're asking $205, and they're not giving you a price break for the fact that this was $50. So the price difference between these should not be $255. The price break between those should be $150. Again, I get that they need to mark up some things, but come on. It's it's ridiculous to mark up a component that is so easy to replace, just like RAM. It is ridiculous to mark up RAM. It's ridiculous to mark up an NVMe, but they do it because they're trying to push you into slightly higher tiers, slightly higher margins. Storage drives, I would not recommend an SSD for storage for big things. If you're streaming a lot like this, I would go with a bigger mechanical drive like that. $150 for this, not the best deal. Same thing down here. But what's the cache though? See, it's these it's these little things. It's these little things that make such a huge performance difference that if somebody doesn't actually tell you 64, if somebody doesn't actually tell you on the website, and Origin's an SI, Origin is meant for people that love gaming and want high performance, and to not tell them something as simple as the cache, how are they supposed to make an intelligent decision? Even if you need your buddy to go tell you, hey, this is the configuration, this is what you need to go build. Look at how many times I had to look things up. It's ridiculous. All right, so 64 megs of cache plus 7,200 RPM plus 2 terabyte. That's a good drive. That really is a good drive. It says up to 256, but it doesn't actually tell me what this model has, which is 64, not 256. So this is a good spindle drive. You want higher cache because higher cache will allow you to access faster if you have bigger files. Smaller files, they can't leverage that cache as well, which means you're going to end up getting slower performance. The cache is there to help buffer. So as the needle's moving across those spindles, the cache is going to help make up for that time. In addition to that, the larger the file, typically the more likely it is that the bits are written on the same platter in the same area, which means the cache can just pick it all up and feed it out as fast as possible. So that's why you want a decent amount of cache. I've seen drives, 7,200 drives that have 32 megs actually perform worse than 5,900 drives that have 64 megs of cache. So it makes a difference. I actually have a video going up probably next week that shows that on Project 7 back there. It shows the difference in drive speeds between a PCI Gen 4, PCI Gen 3, big 4 terabyte 5900 with 64, smaller 2 terabyte 7200 but only 32 megs of RAM of cache. And there's differences. There's significant differences across them. This is perfect. A gold rated power supply, that's what you want. This M850 is pretty much the de facto standard for power supplies in this vein. It is modular, which means, we can get a picture. It means you're only connecting the cables that you need, which is perfect. There's no LEDs, there's no fanciness here, and if you want to get it sleeved, you can get it sleeved too. And it's 80 gold plus. There's a video on the site that I go over that talks about this too. Like this is a perfect drive for this very purpose. Add-on cards, if you are doing creative work, you might want a capture card. Now these are the Elgatos. I've heard good, I've heard bad. This Elgato right here is actually the card I'm looking at testing. I've not used a capture card in a long time, so my opinion's not as new. But this is the one that I was looking at for myself, and it's 300 bucks. That's roughly the price I saw. I saw some of them going down to around 250 up to 300, so they're not really ripping you off too much here. Nobody uses CDs anymore. I wouldn't buy any mice or keyboards. I am sure that these are marked up pretty well as well. Let's see. I actually have this mouse and I paid much less than that. I think I paid about 70 bucks for that mouse. Yep. So there goes there. That's my theory. Yeah, don't buy any of these. These, just based upon this, these are all probably marked up too much too. Shipping protection. I've seen that before. Really? Like I need to pay I need to pay more for you to insure the box? Really? Like, I'm not being facetious. Like, if you think about shipping with UPS, you can it's $100, I think, default, and then you can buy increments upwards of 4,000, somewhere in that range, probably for that amount of money. So this is just a fancy box, but you don't get any insurance. That doesn't sound good. Warranty. Oh, I've had horror stories about this, and not from the way that you might think. Warranties are not profit centers. Some businesses, from an accounting standpoint, might do holdback for warranty. Actually, they all do. They're considered liabilities. But normally they are not used to like balance the books or make it look more profitable in a given quarter. Warranties, like, I'm hesitant because I don't want to sound too biased here. There is a reason that these warranties cost what they cost. When somebody actually has a problem, it's not cheap. So think of a $3,000 computer. The motherboard in those computers was $200, $300, $400. You send somebody on site, et cetera, et cetera. So let's say that you're selling 100,000 units. Your per unit on average warranty cost might be like $30. So it's built in to this number, your subtotal over here. These additional years do add on some level of protection. I would not go beyond basically the 1 year, though. If something is going to fail, typically it fails within the first year. If you want just a little bit of added protection, maybe consider 2 years, but I wouldn't go beyond that. And a big reason is I'm swapping the GPU as soon as those 2 years are up. And then I'm selling that GPU and then using that money to buy another one, right? Every 2 years, that's what I do anyways with my own personal systems. So chances are, if there's a problem on that system, I'm going to know about it in the first year. In 2 years, I'm already going to be swapping components. And so they're not going to cover a lot of the extra stuff. They will cover what was in that box to begin with. They will want you to put those components back in and see if it works. And if it does, not their fault. So don't go beyond 2. Maybe consider, in this instance, I'm not going to. Streaming gear. I mean, they don't look too marked up, but I'm sure they are slightly, unless they're like a capture card. Ooh, a free t-shirt. I will certainly take a free t-shirt. I'm American. I wear extra large. Yes, I know. Dad bod. Dad bod. Hoodies are nice. I like those hoodies. Display. I have this monitor. I'm looking at this monitor. I'm looking at this very monitor. I paid $300. Actually, I think I paid $280 for this monitor. All right, hold on. I mean, this is not going to be the most interesting part of the stream, but I have to look. I have to look. I'm looking at my own Amazon. I'm not going to show you my Amazon. Okay. I didn't get the HDR version. Yeah. I got one slightly older. It does not have HDR, which I was fine with. But because I did that, MSRP for this monitor right here, I could go buy this on Amazon right now, brand new, $379. I could buy it brand new from Amazon for $379. That is disgraceful. Like, there's no other way around calling it. That's disgraceful. Like, I'm not opposed to people making money. I don't want people to think that. Like, my company certainly makes money off of these kind of decisions too, the business that I work for. But come on. Like, there's making money, and then there's $200 of blatant ripoff. $200 of blatant ripoff. Okay. So Project 7 came in at around 21, and it has better memory. So I know I'm replacing the memory. The cooling solution is okay. They're on par. I actually went with the Z490. So I'm going to call it a wash. I'm going to call these slight differences here a wash. So for $950 more, you can get this Origin, and it should perform just as well as Project 7 over there for $950 more. You did get to choose all the components, but you saw the artificial choice. So for $950 more, you could buy this system and have them build it. For $178 more, we could get this HP. Choose that. To get the right capacity, we have to add one of those. Okay. There we go. We have a 3080 inside of this, and we have I really have to be careful saying this. We have similar-ish specs to what we configured here with Origin. Now, I say that because there's a lot of unknowns inside of here. I don't know the fans. I don't know the power supply all that well. Cooler Master 750 Platinum. Decent enough. I'd probably like to see 850, but a 750 and a Platinum, that's good. So I don't have any qualms there. So I could spend $250 or $2,500, get a 3080, get a slightly older processor. So there's a $100 difference there, but I got a 3080. I'm still getting the same not great RAM. The only question is really the fans at that point. So I know everybody likes to dig on ODMs and pre-built and always say that they're a ripoff. You can find sometimes some decent enough deals that it doesn't have to feel like a ripoff. Now, back to the Patreon, and I actually have a picture for the Patreon. Patreon, yes. Back to the Patreon. This is what I want to do. I want to be able to buy a system like this. I want to take it apart to show you all of the things, put it back together in a better way to improve the performance, test it, benchmark it, all of that. That is what the TheGrayingTech Patreon here is to support. So if you're interested in those kind of content and a system that is going to be donated to charities, maybe consider joining the Patreon. All right, so that is my comparison for today. You could see Origin, part for part, we came out very close to Project 7 for $950 more with some gaps still. HP, we actually ended up getting a slightly better system with some of the same problems, like this 3200 speed RAM as opposed to 36, maybe even 4 gigahertz, for $2,500. And then we are, of course, comparing that to Project 7, which was $2,100. So sometimes you're going to get ripped off. Sometimes you might actually find a decent deal. With that said, the last thing I want to talk about, I have another channel. As you can see, this channel has a horrible name. I can't even change this name yet because I don't have 100 subscribers. So if you are even remotely interested in what I am doing, please, it'll be down in the description below. Swing over here to the TheGrayingTech MC. Click the subscribe button for me, at least long enough for me to get my custom URL. And then if you're not into it, that's okay. I get it. Not motorcycles aren't everybody's thing. But this is the kind of content that I am trying to create for you. I'm looking over here to make sure the sound is going to work. So I'm going to play a little bit of a 3D video that I recorded yesterday. This is a Harley Davidson Heritage at Grand Rapids Harley Davidson. I will be buying a bike from here hopefully this month, test riding several of them. I'm a returning motorcyclist. I cover all of that in the channel itself. That's what it's going to be devoted to. And then I'm going to be doing a lot of these ride-alongs, and if I get enough subscriber base and enough viewing base, I've actually talked with Grand Rapids Harley Davidson and Fox Power Sports to be able to borrow some of their bikes when inventory gets fixed. You think PC parts are bad? Motorcycle parts are just as bad right now. Like, I'm not even kidding. You wouldn't think it's hard to chrome plate something. Apparently, it's just as hard as building silicone. Who knew? But I'm partnering up with those dealerships, doing some ride-alongs just like this. What you're going to see here is no talking. This is solely taking the bike out for a ride and enjoying it. Looks like it's going out to the stream, so I'm going to stop talking. And I just realized I need to get a better graphic over there for when I show motorcycle stuff. But there you go. That's what the TheGrayingTech MC channel you can expect to see on here. And as I said, I do have an entire returning rider series already posted. You can see better graphics and some other things that I've been toying around with. And there are 13 videos up here right now. I got to delete this one because that was a republish. But there are 13 videos up here right now. So if you enjoy my computer content and maybe you're bike curious, maybe you are a returning motorcyclist yourself, maybe check out my motorcycle channel as well. If you do, please consider subscribing, even if just for a little while, so I can get the custom channel. Thank you very much. There's a lot of comments. Put them down below. This was my first run at this. I've seen some other YouTubers doing somewhat similar things as this because we're coming up into the holiday season. I just wanted to give you my perspective of how I see these things. I don't want you to get ripped off. If people enjoy this, if people watch the replay or are watching live, great. If not, hey, I have other ideas and I will try them out. Thank you very much. Be sure to click like, subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful